All right, so I took the truck out on a test drive there. Front end was all over the place, really hard to control. So the toe is definitely way out. So I'm gonna be doing like a tape measure alignment. So basically running string lines beside the truck and setting the toe adjustment. I have the truck up on skates right now just to make it a little bit easier because the front end's so heavy with the Hemi in it. And I'm also gonna raise the front end up a little bit with the torsion bar adjustments because it's riding pretty low right now and it's bottoming out. So increase the tension there, lift the front end up, do the string line front end alignment, and then take it out on another test drive. Alright, so I got the two string lines set up here. They're very parallel. I measured off the rear wheels to set the backs of the strings, and then worked with the front, measured off the hub, center here, to get both sides even. And the front and the back match each other now. So I did an initial measurement on the front wheels here, and the toe is way out. This wheel's pointing off to the right, and that wheel there is pretty close to straight, pointing out to the left a little bit. So now I'm gonna open the adjusters, start working with the front wheels to get them aligned, maybe slightly towed in as my baseline, take it for another test drive, and hopefully it'll be pretty close. All right, so I got the string line set up and the truck on the skates, jumped underneath to start adjusting the toe, which is pretty basic. It's just loosen the nuts and adjust the rod. But I did have a bigger problem that you'll see coming up here where I needed to change out the steering box. So I took the truck out for a test drive after trying to adjust the front end, and it's still all over the place. You can kind of see it here. The left wheel's straight, and the front wheel, or the right wheel is pointing pretty far out to the side, or to the left. So might take another crack at adjusting it, but I also found that the steering box itself is very loose. So I think that's also playing into my issues that I'm having all over the road. I've been thinking about doing a rack and pinion swap on this truck just to get it a little bit more modern, especially with how heavy this front end is. So I'm going to think about that and go from there and see what's going to come next. So today I'm going to be working on the steering box. The original one had some excessive play in this steering. I took it out for a test drive there, and it was just all over the road. So picked up a new, remanufactured one from Canadian Tire by Cardon. So I'll be transferring over everything, the pitman arm, all the lines and everything, and then throwing it back in. Wasn't too bad to take it out. Just had to, stick a jack under the lines, under the bolts, and then stick a jack in there to lift the engine up a little bit so I could clear the header with the box. So now I'm just gonna be reassembling everything. And throw it back in there. All right, so everything came off pretty easily there. Surprised I didn't have to pull harder to get the pitman arm off. And the U-joint came off really well, so now I'm just going to transfer everything over to the new steering box here and get it back in the truck. All right, so I got everything onto the steering box here. So now I'm gonna put it in the truck. So just gonna jack the engine up again, a little bit with that jack there, and then jump underneath and slide it in place. So I'm having a few fitment issues there. I don't know why I had to pull the box back out, because it's hitting the frame a little bit on the motor mounts for the Hemi. So must just be a little bit of difference between the old one and the new one. So I'm just gonna grind the frame out a little bit to make enough room, and hopefully it fits in there. Okay, finally got it in there. It was pretty tight fit. I don't know why it didn't fit the same as the other one, but whatever. So now, hardware, pitman arm, steering shaft, and good to go. All right, so I finally got the box back in the truck there. I don't know why I had to cut so much out. I guess it's just a slightly different model of box, and engine mount and a few other things were just in the way from the frame mods that we did before. So now the box is in place there, looking good. So I think so now I'll take out the jack holding the engine up now that it's in. Tighten the engine mount so I don't forget to do that. And then hook up the lines, hook up the steering shaft, and done. All right, so steering box is in the truck, pitman arms hooked up, the lines are all done and everything. So now I gotta finalize everything. So I'll be doing an alignment, basically the string line method, but instead of using strings, I'm gonna be using these two laser levels here. And so just using them instead of the strings. So I'm gonna lock the steering shaft in place with some straps, I guess. I'm not really sure how I'm gonna do that yet. And then set the two lasers up on either side of the vehicle to adjust the toe. I'll probably jack the truck up a little bit to get some weight off the front end, because last time I tried to do this alignment, it didn't really go too well. It was pretty hard to adjust the front end. So I'll probably get it pretty close, having it a little bit of the weight taken off, and then once I can take it for a few test drives, then I'll be able to actually dial it in real nice. All right, so I started setting up the lasers for the front wheel adjustment here. So I'm just gonna square the lasers up with the frame and with the center axles at the front here. And then I'll lock the steering wheel in place, and then start working on the adjustment for the toe. Basically just measuring from the rim on the front and the back of it here to square it up. I've got the truck, the lower control arms sitting on some blocks here. And it'll just make the adjustment a little bit easier. Instead of trying to turn the wheel on the floor, It's floating in the air, but still sitting on the suspension. So I know it's not gonna be perfect, but it'll get me in the range. Once I can take it for a test drive, I'll really see how it is. All right, so I got the lasers square to the frame, parallel with each other, ready to do all my measurements here. I measured the rear end. I am gonna have to shim the rear end over to the passenger side about 1/4 of an inch. The front end's pretty good, within reason. It's within 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch, something like that. So now what I'm gonna do is, first thing, I'm gonna put some marker marks on the floor with where these lasers line up with, so that I don't have to do the setup again. Then I'm gonna lock the steering wheel in place with some straps. I'll sort that out. And then I'll start the actual adjustment of the toe of the front end. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find the center of the steering wheel. I'm gonna line it up with the center of the dash there. And then once I have that all sorted out, I'm gonna figure out a way of holding the steering wheel in place so that it is straight, and then I'll move on to actually adjusting the front wheels. All right, so how I'm gonna lock the steering in place is I'm gonna put a vice grip on this U-joint for the steering, and then just wire it up to this bolt that's right here for the exhaust flange, and that should keep the steering in place, keep the steering straight while I'm adjusting everything. So here's a little sneak peek of the truck on the road after I passed safety a couple weeks later and got the plates. Changing the steering box out and adjusting the front end using the lasers really worked out well. I nailed the adjustment. It feels perfectly aligned. I know it's probably still a little bit off, and I still need to get the camber and the caster adjusted. But the front end swap to the early 70s, torsion bar front end, it feels amazing. It's got a really smooth ride, really nice suspension travel. So I'm really happy with the results. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Later.